I am talking with Thodoris Kotsifas, who is a guitar player. He's I guess you could say, a producer as well. He's a teacher as well. And just last year, Thodoris also released his most recent album. But before we start talking about your new album and your recordings, I want to start at the very, very start. So I'm always interested in, how people got started. So what made you get into music and pick up the guitar in the beginning?
Oh yeah. So actually, I started playing the guitar not in a very early young age. Like I started playing music at the age of 6, but I was playing mostly Greek music and folk and traditional music. And it started by accident because I was at the neighborhood's house. Someone was it was someone's birthday, and they had the Greek bouzouki there, and someone was playing. And when they left the house, I tried to imitate that. So that's how I started, I guess.
Okay.
I started playing the guitar around 15 years old, 16 years old, and then I went to the university. I studied at Ionian University, where there was a jazz department. And as soon as I listened to the guys playing, I knew that that was what I wanted to do. So how it started, pretty much.
So when you heard which guys playing?
Other students, some teachers, some artists from other countries that were visiting.
Okay.
First one, the first huge example was Jonathan Kreisberg. Came for I guess it was like for 10 days, and he was teaching and playing. And when I saw him playing the guitar, I was like, "Oh man, that's what I want to do."
Say his name again, sorry, because I don't think I've heard of him before.
Jonathan Kreisberg.
Jonathan
He's
Christberg. I'm
an
going to have to look him up.
Yeah, Jonathan Kreisberg. He's an incredible guitar player.
Okay. Now, you're a member of the band, the Next Step Quintet, who
Yeah.
are not really a quintet, actually, because there's only 4 members, permanent members in the band. Tell me how a 4-member band can be a quintet.
Yeah. Actually, it started as a quintet because we were playing with a saxophone player from Sweden who used to live in Athens, but then he had to go. So we kept the form like a quintet, but we played with another saxophone player from Greece. So our first album was was a quintet. The second album, though, was a quintet plus one saxophone that we did with Tivon Pennicott, who's a really well-known saxophone player from the US. So that was a sextet actually. But then we composed a couple of pieces that we weren't sure that we wanted to do it with a saxophone, and because there was not a permanent fifth member, we tried to play those tunes like a quartet, and it was much easier for rehearsing and producing the ideas because the four basic members of the band were really close friends too. So it's really easy to communicate and to stay all night long and practice and record and play. So it was something that came naturally. It was the easiest thing to do, and to me, it was the most effective and creative process.
Okay, yeah, because the 2 albums with Next Step Quintet, first one is with Takis Paterelis, who is one of the busiest sax players in Greece, I think.
That was
And
the second one.
say that again. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. That was the second album with Takis Paterelis plus Tivon Pennicott. The first one was a saxophone player called Orpheas Wardik Tsoukalas, who lives in Sweden now.
Okay, so how did you end up getting Takis and Tevin for the second album, especially
Mm,
Tevin, because he's uh, yeah based in the US. So how did you make
yeah,
contact with him?
yeah. So for like 2 or 3 years, some of us used to travel to New York, And when Billy Paul, the drummer, went there and stayed for like a month, he met several people, and one of them was Steven. When he came back, he just, he said, I met the saxophone player, he would be perfect. And we emailed him, and he was going to be in Europe for like a month, I think. And when we told him, we want to record an album with you, he just immediately said yes, and we had a really great time. And he's a really nice guy, amazing musician. And then after like a year, maybe 2 years, we played a couple of festivals uh, in Cyprus and in Greece. So whenever he used to come in Greece, there was some kind of communication, so we could arrange a couple of stuff.
Okay. And so how often does he return to Greece?
I don't know. He came like last year, but I didn't see him because now I don't live in Athens.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's been the last time we played was like 2017.
It's been a while.
Yeah, maybe 18. I can't remember exactly the date.
Okay. And what would you say is you had two players on the second album, Tefan Pencott and Takis Paterelis. What would you say is the biggest difference in their playing styles?
That's a really interesting question. They come from the same, they speak the same language, but they come from a totally different environment. So, uh, and they are two totally different characters. So, the idea was to have them, have a conversation and hear both sides' opinions. I believe that the differences in terms of language are not that big because Takis was in US for many years and he has a lot of this type of vocabulary. But the way they express, that if I want to talk in technical terms, I would say that maybe Tivon has a more bluesy approach in his playing. Of course, in the jazz context.
Yep.
And he plays with a lot of groove and with a lot of riffs and stuff like that. But Takis on the other side used to play, uh, I would say, more in a more melodic fashion. But I don't mean that Tivon didn't play melodic.
Yeah.
But I mean, Takis has this lyricism that comes from maybe, let's say, the European and the Eastern cultures. He plays a lot of free music also. Plays a lot of free improvisations. I believe that we play and we sound like the way we feel, the way we behave, the way we live. And when you live in so different environments, you might speak the same language, but there are going to be some differences that are going to stand out when you're playing. And the different actually the differences I believe are mostly I don't know the words exactly, but cultural differences.
Yep. And yeah, we mentioned a little bit the third album from Next Step, Quartet, because the third album was without the sax player. Was it just that's how the songs were written, or did you specifically say, the next album we're not going to do a quintet, we're going to play without the sax player?
Yeah, it was a funny story behind that. First of all, we composed the tunes. I believe that we composed the tunes for a quartet, but we were talking about adding another instrument. We were talking about so, we thought about bringing in some keyboard players for some more like synth uh, layers, or we thought about bringing a singer or something like that. But for fun, we just said that he wouldn't fit in the car for the tour. So there was something that we just said it for fun, but it was true. But I believe that the main idea was to play the music as a quartet. Though it was a little weird because we recorded that album live in a really beautiful club in Athens that is closed now. It doesn't work now.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it's too bad. But we recorded it live, and before Puzzle Music Company released the album, we had a tour where we played the same stuff, but in a more electric way, with electric bass. With instead of piano, we played with keyboards and synthesizers. I had a more electric sound, and we were pretty close to cancel the first recording and re-record that. But the company was like, "Nah, I want to take it out to publish it," and so we didn't do it.
Interesting. So, yeah, I guess I'll get to the question that came into my mind. But yeah, you've released 2 solo albums. The first album is Conception of Thought, 2017, and the new one was released last year, 2023, New World Design. 2 albums are very different in styles, which is kind of interesting to hear. Conception of Thought is very much, I guess, a straight jazz album with not too much focus on your own playing. It's not very guitar focused. And I would say, your playing is more accompanying the other instruments. How easy or difficult is it as a guitarist to write with a focus for other instruments?
Really, really interesting question. Well, I think there are 2 ways to see that. The first one is to look at it as something hard because you have to focus on instruments that you don't really know, and you don't really know how they work exactly. But to me, it was the opposite thing around. I was so insecure with what I could do with the guitar that actually I used the other instruments to express things that I wasn't sure I was going to do and how I was going to do with the guitar. Plus that, I was listening to a lot of music that actually did the same thing. At that time, I wasn't really focused on guitar players. I was more focused in albums like Brian Blade's Fellowship Band. I don't know if you know this.
So, which album? Sorry, say that one again.
It's if you search for Brian Blade, he's a drummer. Fellowship Band.
Okay.
There's a lot of albums. I found those albums from some guitar players that I really like, and they play in this album. But he's a drummer, and the album is once again not based on the drums, so it was not based on the guitar. It was based more in the arrangement and the orchestration. And I had a couple of things and a couple of ideas in my head, but I wasn't really sure that I could make them sound right with the guitar. That was maybe for 2 reasons. Maybe I didn't feel confident with how I could play something, or it was because I had this sound in my head coming from these albums and from these artists. And I knew that when I recorded the album, I knew that that was not a guitar album. But when we finished recordings, I said to myself that the next one is going to be more focused on the guitar.
Okay, so the second album was you kind of did it on purpose as such, the guitar focus on the second album.
Yeah, I don't know if it was actually on purpose, but it was an idea that kept kept struggling in my head, and it made me learn a lot of things. It made me change even the way I practice, the way I approach my time in my studio. And then it came naturally because it was during the quarantine where I had all this time to do the production at home. Actually, that's another difference in those two albums. The first one was recorded live in the studio, all the band played together. The next one was something. The second one was something that I did the pre-production, and then we started building over that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was plenty of room to think about different stuff I could explore on the guitar, different sounds, different techniques, different melodies. I recorded riffs behind the main scene, the main themes. When I had the opportunity to play that the whole project live, we played like three guitar players
Okay.
in order to play the exact same thing.
Interesting. Um, yes, I saw the interview that you did on Musiki Dialogi with
Yeah.
Alex, Dragos Distakis, where you were talking about how you prefer to know who is going to play on a project so you know to write music that is suited for them. And that, doing it the other way around is a little bit difficult for you. Talk about this a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. That was that's the interview. I think it was like 2020, 2000.
Sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah, I think it was during the quarantine. Yeah, actually, that was quite true. It was really easy for me if I knew who was going to play because I could imagine first of all the sound, the tone, and I could I could easily imagine how they could work in the studio. For example, I used to play with this great saxophone player, David Lynch, who I knew that I didn't have to explain everything about dynamics and articulation because he had his own thing. He could orchestrate and arrange his parts in a way that they sounded beautiful. Or, for example, if I know which piano player is going to play, I don't have to be really specific with the voicings. So that's one approach to this. But at the same time, it's yin and yang, right? This is something that was really helpful for me, but it was really it was limiting me in other terms, in other directions. So at the same time, when I was thinking about all this stuff, I knew that I wanted to be able to compose stuff that could be played by anyone and sound pretty beautiful, pretty good. I'm not sure if I'm doing that, but it's a different approach when you're looking for a strong melody that's going to it's going to sound fine whoever plays it. For example, when you listen to Chopin's Nocturnes, it doesn't matter who is going to play it. Of course, it's going to be much better if a good piano player plays it. But it's always beautiful music, beautiful melodies, and beautiful harmonies, right?
Understand? Yeah, absolutely correct.
Yeah. So the different approach was that the first one had to do with I'm looking for someone that is going to play what I'm composing and make it sound beautiful. The other approach that I'm trying to work on now is I'm trying to compose something that is going to sound beautiful anyway, at least in my ears.
I understand. So, of course, that poses the question, if you have somebody in mind and you are writing for somebody in mind, what would happen then if you contact this person, you say, I really want you to play on my album, and they go, sorry, I can't do it?
Yeah. Let me think if it has happened. Yeah, there was one time. It happened with the drummer, with a friend of mine that had this steady job and he couldn't do the gigs and the recordings. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. It was. It's never hard to find someone else, and even I believe that if you have something really specific in your head, that's a good thing. But if you need to make some adjustments, um, in who is going to play, and you find good musicians and good people, because it's really important to me to to find good people too.
Of course.
It, it has to do with how much you accept um, that you don't control everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that if you accept that, the outcome would be something maybe slightly different than what you imagined, but it doesn't mean that it's not good.
Yep.
It's to me, it's like drinking coffee. I like a specific type of coffee, but if I drink another coffee, if it's good, I'm going to like it and I'm going to enjoy it. The same thing. Yeah, I like some specific musicians very much, but if they can't make the gig, I will play with other people and I will try to find my way in there and I will try to make it work. And if they have some skills that are required for at least for me and for my music, I'm going to have fun and I'm going to learn through it.
Nice. And of course, I'm guessing I know the answer to this question, but I will ask it anyway, because by the sounds of it, you're very open to other opinions and to other styles. But how much are other musicians kind of allowed when you're doing your own project? Allowed is probably a bad word, but I can't think of a better word.
Yeah.
Allowed to say to you, let's try this or let's try this and that kind of thing.
It's everyone is allowed to say anything, and a lot of times some ideas sound much better than I thought. Also, for example, um, so there are some piano players that I can explain the colors that I want to hear when we play, but they definitely have better ideas about voicings than me. The same
Okay.
thing happens sometimes with drummers and stuff like that. But to me, because I always see the bands that I'm playing, at least my projects, as as a group of friends. You can't, I can't see that just like a job. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm hiring the guys and they do my thing. It's to me, it's like hanging out. Talking about music and trying things and experiment. It's always a part of the process. It's like having a conversation. Let's say I gather with my friends and I bring in a topic and we start talking about that. It's the same thing. I bring in the music and let's do. But in the end, of course, I think that the leader has the last call.
Of course.
Yeah, but really beautiful ideas can come. Like if anyone feels free to talk, but it's also important that everyone knows when he should stop.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Because this can be like a never-ending process. Just playing one tune and always thinking about what else should be done, what can we do differently. But if I believe that, like in everything, there has to be balance.
As well as playing with Next Step Quintet and your solo projects, you've done some recordings for other people's projects, and including a player I only became familiar with maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and that is Yorgos Tabakis on his
Yeah.
EP Sounds and Images, and I really love the interplay between the two of you on that song that you did together. How aware were you of George's work before recording with him, and what was the experience like for you? Because he was playing a 7-string guitar at that time. So have you played with a 7-string player before?
Yeah. I knew Yorgos because he was one of the most, active guys in Athens, and he's a really nice guy too, and he's really open, he's really kind, and stuff like that. And the first time I went to one of his concerts, I was like, oh man, what's that? He composes all this. At that time, it was really weird in my head because I couldn't even understand how the fingerings are working on the way he composes music. When we played together and when he called me to record this tune, and he explained a couple of things about how he thinks. in terms of composition. It was really clear to me. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it was really easy because the way he approaches music always has space for other people to come and um, like bring in themselves without interrupting the music.
Nice.
And yeah, and I think that's because he's really open as a person too. But later on, I checked him out more. He's really, for some years he was releasing maybe 2 albums every year. He was really productive and creative. And now I think he plays with an 8-string guitar.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how he's doing that. I would need to use my feet too. Yeah, but it's been a while since I've seen him. Now I don't live in Athens anymore, so I miss a lot of the guys there.
Nice. Yeah, he's a great player. But it looks to me, with yourself, I don't think, other than that one song with George, it doesn't look like you have recorded very much with other guitarists. Am I correct?
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay. So is there a reason that this has not happened more frequently? Recording, I know you obviously play with different guitarists, but recording with different guitarists?
It's not really something that I had in my mind, to compose music for 2 guitars or for a quartet with 2 guitars. And I believe that the same thing happens with other guitar players that I know. Some of them are my friends. Um, it might happen sometime. Even this conversation we have right now, it might be something that can uh, work as a starting point for this idea.
Now, on the topic of instruments and guitars, there is one guitar which I found very interesting. I'm guessing you're probably going to know which one I'm going to say, but it's not a standard Fender or Gibson, and you use it on the show Musiki Dialogi. Tell us about a bit about this instrument, because it looks interesting, but I'm guessing that it also feels different and plays different to a guitar that you just pick up off the shelf.
Yeah. So like 7 or 8 years ago, started having all those ideas about playing different instruments, trying to explore what I want to sound like and how it feels and all this stuff. And I had this friend of mine, Achilles, who is actually the luthier of those guitars. They call Foss guitars. And at some point, he called me. We used to study together at the music department of Ionian University. And he called me. He was like, I'm building guitars, and I was thinking about making something with you. And that time, I was in a phase with a guitar player called Tim Miller. I'm not sure if you know him. He's pretty well known, amazing player.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also in love with Alan Holdsworth. It was a huge fan. I still am a huge fan. Yeah, and I got this idea about headless guitars and how they looked and how it was really easy for me because I'm a short guy, so I couldn't actually feel really comfortable with big guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, maybe let's try it. And I made the design. The thing is that a couple of years before, I built one guitar on my own. Just like I studied a couple of books and had a couple of lessons, and then I bought the wood and I made like a small working place at my home. And then it took me like 3 months, so I built one guitar. And what we did was based on that plan, but on that design exactly. But it was much better built. So that guitar, I still learn a lot of things. Now I work with a luthier here in Thessaloniki who is called Yannis Paveza Guitars. Really,
Yes.
really interesting job. You can check him out. And now I still learn a lot of things. Back then, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. First of all, I could carry this guitar all around me. And but there was something weird with those headless guitars. I wasn't really sure, but then I played uh, some well-known brands that built headless guitars, and there was always something missing to me when I was playing with a really electric sound with distortion and overdrive with this Holsworth-ish sound. It was pretty good, but when I played like clean and I wanted to have this acousticness in my sound, it didn't work for me. I tried different techniques with, adding a microphone inside or stuff like that. It didn't work for me. So I started, realizing that you can't have everything with one guitar.
Mm.
That was, the beginning of a nightmare.
Maybe you need to do like what's his name from Cheap Trick again, who has the 5-neck guitar.
Yeah.
That's what you need to
but,
build next.
Yeah, I don't even remember how many times my then girlfriend told me that, you know what? Let me tell you something. You don't need more guitars. And I was like, you have no idea. I need more guitars. Yeah. So again, then I went. I started playing with. I never played with Telecasters, but then I started playing with Telecasters. This luthier here in Thessaloniki, started giving me a couple of his guitars to check out, and I figured out that I really liked the Telecasters too. So he built me a Telecaster and Stratocaster. I used them a lot, especially in the projects that I played with newer design and more electric projects. But now I'm into a phase. I got my hands on this great Epiphone Howard Roberts, and I'm sure if you know those guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have this one and an old Epiphone Sheraton and a Gibson 330, 335, and sometimes I think that I compose music in order to be able to play with all those guitars.
That leads perfectly to my next question. So, yes, with guitarists, there is the constant search for the perfect tone. How much do you experiment with different sounds and pedals, and how much do the sounds and effects and guitars influence your writing?
The second part of the question, I can tell you immediately that the sound and the type of the sound affects what I'm going to play and what I'm going to compose. Absolutely, it's maybe it's 40% the knowledge I have on the instrument, and the other 60% is what the instrument gives me at the moment. That's why new word design is totally different, because I used to play with a Stratocaster back then, and it gives you other things. But I try to experiment with effects and different amps. Although I'm using mostly my pure tone amps, amazing amplifier made here in Greece. But what I'm looking for is not the perfect tone. I don't think there is such a thing, especially in the times we live now. I don't even know what perfect tone means.
Yeah.
But I'm searching for the type of tone that resonates inside me. That's maybe that's the easiest thing to be really precise with. Maybe in the way I feel, not in the way how I express it with words, but it was really clear to me all the way since the first guitar player I've listened to, what type of sounds gave me the goosebumps, and that's how I like to approach the tone. And all of the guitar players that I really like have some things in common. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know if that answers the question, but I hope that someday I will manage to give me the goosebumps.
Mm-hmm. And who else? I mean, you've mentioned Alan Holdsworth for one. You've mentioned a couple of guitar players. Who are some of your influences when it comes to the guitar?
When it comes to guitar, yeah, it's definitely Kurt Rosenwinkel. Um, Definitely from the jazz, let's say from the jazz thing. I really like a new young guy playing now who's called Andrew Renfro. He plays with a really unique setup, playing with it's like a arched guitar with a microphone. It's really actually worth checking him out. Um, in terms of tone, of course, I like a lot of people in terms of playing and technique and stuff and vocabulary. But in terms of tone, I really like Tim Miller, as I said before. I have to make it this clear. I'm this from the last year, I'm not trying to play like them. For some years, I was trying to sound like them, but it didn't work, of course. But when I say I like them, it's like it's like eating really good food when I listen to them, and I can listen to their music again and again. And other players that I really like the tone is Derek Trucks. I really love guitar players from the rock, let's say, genre. Like grew up with Rory Gallagher and Queen. There's a player that I really like, and I really have dig his music, and he's playing. I think he's Australian. His name is Ben Unson. You know
Say
him?
his name. Say his name again.
Ben.
Sorry, Ben.
Ben Unson. It's spelled like Eunson.
Okay, I don't know
Definitely
him.
check him out. Yeah, definitely check him out. He's like a monster.
Interesting.
Sorry. Yeah, he plays this fusion jazz stuff, and he's great. It's amazing. I learned him from Tivon Pennicott. They're friends, and he told me like check him out. He's amazing, and he's actually really great.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just thought of another question. I'm going to go back a little bit. You started out with the bouzouki. How does the knowledge of the bouzouki influence your playing on the guitar?
Oh man, you should listen to the first recordings I did as a guitar player, and you can see that it's not in a good way. Like it took me like I think it took me like 2 years to change a lot of the habits that I had as a music player. But of course, there are a couple of things about the mechanism of the fingers and stuff like that, and the visualization of the fretboard that I had an idea, but because to me it's really different, both the language and the techniques. So I was playing bouzouki since a really young age, and I was in a really quite good level. So when I changed to the guitar, I had all these habits that, you know, when I was talking with Jonathan Kreisberg, he and I played this Greek stuff on the guitar. He was like, "Oh man, that sounds cool," but I said, that sounds cool over there. Over here, that sounds really weird because it sounds like I don't know. It sounds like really cliche, and yeah, I don't know. So I think that it helped me in a couple of ways, but it was a struggle to remove all those habits.
Interesting.
Yin and yang.
Yep. Yes, you have mentioned you are a teacher as well. Where are you teaching? Are you teaching at the university, are you?
I'm teaching a lot in the university. I teach sometimes and I give some seminars in universities. I teach mostly in a music high school, which is like a normal high school, but it has all these music lessons. And thankfully, I teach the electric guitar, and I have the honor to say that a lot of the new players in Greece, guitar players, came from this type of music schools, and I had a lot of them as my students. I teach privately a lot. I do a lot of online lessons with people from all around the world, and I was maybe next year I'm trying to get a job in Austria teaching, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. So I'm looking for some jobs in other countries. Yeah.
Is that because the opportunities are better than what is available in Greece?
Yeah. So, if I want to be honest, I'm really lucky because I'm one of the musicians here that I really work a lot and play a lot and do all this new stuff and projects. But the thing is that here in Greece, it's really weird because um, music is something that is more like a luxury for the system here. Um, so everyone treats musicians mostly like hobbyists. I think it's pretty much the same around the world. But yeah, I don't know. It was this idea that I had that when I started believing in myself a little bit and gaining my confidence as a musician, I realized that the reason that I didn't travel was, first of all, financial reasons. And the second one was because I didn't think that I was ready. But then I had a couple of travels, concerts, and I met other musicians from other countries. And I started realizing that, you know, it's pretty much the same all around the world, and that I could do the same thing in a little better conditions.
Hmm.
So I started doing that. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of things now. In February, I'm playing in Sweden. Then I go to Germany. Uh, then I think last days of April, I'll go to Italy. So I have a couple of things going on. Yeah, I don't know.
Just solo shows, or what are you doing in those gigs?
No, in Sweden, I'm playing with Quartet from there. Saxophone player, drummer, and bass player. We have a couple of gigs there. In Germany, I think I'm going to play New World Design with musicians from there.
Okay,
Plus a couple of tunes. The same in Italy.
nice, very nice. Okay, a couple
Hopefully,
more
hopefully it's not.
questions.
Yeah,
Um, I think teaching is one of the most difficult jobs because it's each person learns differently. So, for you, what do you think makes a good teacher?
that's a great question, man. Actually, I really think that it's if you really care about um, transmitting whatever you can transmit to the student, it's really hard. It's really difficult, and it's really it takes all your energy to do that. First of all, if I can bullet point it, it's that when you enter the class, you have to leave yourself outside the class.
Hmm.
You have to leave your ego. And I found out that the worst thing I did in the first years I was teaching is that I didn't realize that not everyone is going to learn the same way I learned.
Hmm.
Not everyone has the same needs,
Hmm.
and that that was a great thing to realize that teaching music is not about you know making someone great player or great musician. Not always. That's a good case. But teaching music to me is really important to have in mind that it might mean that someone could be just a better audience, or someone can show a little more respect to what's happening, or maybe he can understand. Thankfully, he can understand that music can change his life in a way, or music can change other people's lives in a way. And to me, it's like a living organism. Um, you have to let it breathe. First of all, you shouldn't rush things. And another really important thing is to be able. That's a little complex because you can't be a good teacher if you're really selfish. You
Hmm.
can't be a good teacher if you don't have basic knowledge about psychology. That's really important to me. You can be a really good teacher if you are too competitive. So
Yep.
there are a couple of stuff, it's different to people, but yeah, and another thing is that somehow you have to be a problem solver.
Hmm.
And if I can say that something really helped me is that actually I didn't have a regular guitar teacher, so I had to find different ways to solve my own problems, and that I believe that made me a pretty good problem solver. Because I now sometimes I have students that have specific problems, and it seems really easy to me on how to approach it, because I had to deal with it for myself for many years. You know, I had a lot of problems as a player, and you know, it sucked, but it helped me in the end. So I believe that, yeah.
I like that, your answers. And last question, what does the future hold for Thodoris Kotsifas?
That's a big question, you know. Well, to be really honest, one of the things I'm trying to do last year is to stop trying to control things.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, I have my schedule, I have my routine, I have the things I want to do. I practice every day, I compose almost every day, I record, I rehearse. I'm also into other things. I'm into martial arts, and
Interesting.
I do different things in training and working out. So the it's really how is the word? It's really helping me to seeing life like something that, you know, I just wait to see what happens. I do my best, and I try to be active and creative and all this stuff, but I'm not trying to predict what's going to happen or to force something. I'm just waiting to see what's happening. And things, when I started doing that in my head, things, you know, got much better for me.
Very
Like,
nice.
yeah.
Well, I think, yeah, it's almost time for you to start your lessons now.
Yeah, and then like 30 minutes.
So thank you very much. Is there anything else that you wanted to say that I have not asked you?
Well, you know, I want to thank you so much. You know, every time I have the opportunity to talk about all this stuff, is a great opportunity to rethink about all this stuff. And yeah, I hope to meet in person if you come in Greece.
I look forward to it one day. Hope to see you play live. Hope to, yeah, shake your hand and have a coffee or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you very much. Have a good day. I'm sure
You
we'll speak
too,
again.
Chris.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, looking forward. Bye, man.